The Hatfield-McCoy Feud, a tale of blood, pride, and vengeance. The Hatfield-McCoy Feud is one of the most infamous conflicts in American history. For decades, two families on the border of Kentucky and West Virginia were locked in a bitter and bloody feud, fueled by land disputes, political rivalries, and personal vendettas. Their story, equal parts tragedy and legend, is a cautionary tale about the devastating consequences of unchecked pride and vengeance. The origins: two families, one border. The roots of the feud stretch back to the aftermath of the Civil War. The Hatfields, led by William Anderson "Devil Anse" Hatfield, lived on the West Virginia side of the Tug Fork, a tributary of the Big Sandy River. The McCoys, headed by Randolph "Randall" McCoy, resided on the Kentucky side. Both families were rugged Appalachian settlers, relying on the land for their livelihoods. They were independent, fiercely loyal to their kin, and bound by the harsh realities of frontier life. The Civil War left deep scars in the region, with loyalties divided. The Hatfields generally sided with the Confederacy, while the McCoys were Union supporters. These political differences sowed early seeds of tension, though the real spark of the feud would come years later. The first spark: Asa Harmon McCoy's death, 1865. The earliest incident tied to the feud occurred in 1865, when Asa Harmon McCoy, a Union veteran and Randolph McCoy's brother, was murdered. He was ambushed and killed by a group of ex-Confederate guerrillas known as the Logan Wildcats. Although Devil Hatfield was loosely associated with the Wildcats, there was no direct evidence linking him to Asa's murder. Still, the McCoys harbored suspicions. This killing, while not officially the start of the feud, planted the first seeds of resentment between the families. Land and timber disputes, 1870s. In the years following the Civil War, land ownership and natural resources became sources of tension. The Hatfields had amassed significant timber rights on the Tug Fork, making them wealthier and more influential than the McCoys. The McCoys resented this imbalance, particularly as they struggled with economic hardship. The Hatfields' growing dominance in the region stoked feelings of envy and rivalry, setting the stage for future conflicts. The Pig Trial, a fight over swine, 1878. One of the most famous sparks of the feud was a seemingly trivial dispute over a hog. In 1878, Randolph McCoy accused Floyd Hatfield, a cousin of Devil Anse, of stealing one of his pigs. In rural Appalachia, hogs were valuable assets, and this accusation was no small matter. The case went to a local trial, with a jury composed of members from both families. The star witness was Bill Staton, a relative by marriage to both families, who testified in favor of the Hatfields. Floyd Hatfield won the case, but the trial left a bitter taste in the McCoys' mouths. The decision reinforced the growing animosity between the families. In 1880, Bill Staton was murdered by two McCoy brothers, Sam and Paris. Though the brothers were acquitted on grounds of self-defense, the incident deepened the divide. Star-crossed lovers, Roseanna McCoy and John C. Hatfield, 1880. Love briefly bridged the chasm between the two families in 1880, when Roseanna McCoy, Randolph's daughter, fell in love with John C. Hatfield, Devil Anse's son. Their romance blossomed despite their family's enmity. Roseanna even moved in with the Hatfields, defying her family's wishes. However, the relationship ended in heartbreak. John C. abandoned Roseanna and married her cousin, Nancy McCoy, further enraging the McCoys. Roseanna's plight became a symbol of the human cost of the feud, highlighting the personal suffering caused by the family's vendetta. The escalation: the Election Day fight, 1882. The feud exploded into violence during an Election Day celebration in 1882. Tolbert, Farmer, and Bud McCoy, three of Randolph's sons, got into a heated argument with Ellison Hatfield, Devil Anse's brother. The argument turned physical, and the McCoy brothers stabbed and shot Ellison multiple times. Ellison, mortally wounded, was carried across the Tug Fork to the Hatfield side. Devil Anse vowed vengeance, declaring that if Ellison died, so would the McCoy brothers. When Ellison succumbed to his wounds, the Hatfields captured the three McCoy brothers, tied them to pawpaw trees, and executed them by firing squad. This act of retribution marked the true beginning of the Hatfield-McCoy feud as a full-blown war. From this point on, the violence became cyclical, with each family seeking revenge for past wrongs. The New Year's Massacre, 1888. One of the bloodiest episodes of the feud occurred on New Year's Day, 1888. A group of Hatfield allies, led by Cap Hatfield and Jim Vance, attacked the McCoy homestead in Kentucky. The attackers set fire to the McCoy cabin, forcing the family to flee into the freezing night. In the chaos, two of Randolph McCoy's children, Calvin and Alifair, were killed, and his wife, Sarah, was severely beaten. Randolph escaped, but was left devastated by the loss of his family. The New Year's massacre shocked the region and drew national attention to the feud. Law and order intervenes. By the late 1880s, the feud had spiraled out of control. Local authorities struggled to maintain order, and the violence threatened to destabilize the entire region. Kentucky Governor Simon Buckner and West Virginia Governor E. Willis Wilson became involved, demanding justice for the killings. The conflict reached the U.S. Supreme Court in the case of Mahon v. Justice, 1888, which dealt with the legality of extraditing Hatfields to Kentucky for trial. Ultimately, several Hatfields were convicted, and 8 were sentenced to life imprisonment. Ellison, Cotton Top Mounts, a mentally impaired Hatfield ally, was executed in 1890 for his role in the New Year's massacre. The end of the feud. By the early 1890s, the feud had largely burned itself out. Both families had suffered devastating losses, and the cost of the violence, both in lives and resources, was too great to bear. The region began to stabilize, and the Hatfields and McCoys retreated into uneasy coexistence. Devil Anse Hatfield, the patriarch of the Hatfield clan, eventually found solace in religion. He was baptized in 1911, symbolically washing away the blood of the feud. Randolph McCoy lived into his late 80s, though he never fully recovered from the personal toll of the conflict. Legacy of the feud. The Hatfield-McCoy feud has become a symbol of vendettas and family rivalry, immortalized in folklore, books, and television. Yet beneath the legend lies a story of human suffering and the corrosive effects of pride and revenge. Cultural impact. The feud has inspired countless adaptations, including the 2012 miniseries Hatfields and McCoys, starring Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton. Tourism. The feud sites in Kentucky and West Virginia attract visitors eager to explore the history of the conflict. Reconciliation. In 2003, descendants of the Hatfields and McCoys signed a symbolic truce, bringing closure to a century-old conflict. Lessons from history. The Hatfield-McCoy feud is a stark reminder of how grudges can escalate into devastating conflicts. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked anger, tribalism, and the refusal to forgive. Though their story is rooted in a specific time and place, its lessons resonate far beyond the Appalachian Mountains. Today, the Hatfields and McCoys are remembered not just for their feud, but for the enduring impact of their tale. A reminder of how easily human pride can spark a fire, and how difficult it can be to extinguish the flames.